The galaxy was full of life, full of color, and full of voices. Space stations shined like floating cities in the void, and alien races from every corner of the stars gathered to trade, talk, and form fragile friendships. On the great station Orion Prime, there was a special place known as the Hall of Cultures. Here, merchants and travelers displayed the wonders of their people: food, technology, music, art, and more. Thousands walked its shining halls every day. Yet even in this grand melting pot of species, there were some who stood apart. Among them were the Veyari. The Veyari were tall, graceful, and strikingly beautiful, with glowing skin that shimmered faintly under the station's lights. Their eyes were deep and bright like twin suns. Their voices carried a strange melody that drew attention even when they spoke simple words. To many, the Veyari looked like beings from old myths, but beauty did not bring closeness. It brought distance. Every traveler on Orion Prime knew the silent rule: do not approach the Veyari females. Do not touch them. Do not even stand too near. No one dared. It was not out of disrespect. It was out of fear. A strange aura surrounded Veyari women, something that no one could explain. Whenever an alien drew near, their body reacted. Hands shook, breathing faltered, hearts raced, and panic took hold. Some collapsed, some screamed, some fled. No medicine, no training, no shield could stop it. It was as if every instinct screamed, danger. And so, though admired from a distance, the women of the Veyari lived in isolation. They were invited to trade, but not to dance. They were offered riches, but never friendship. They were spoken of with wonder, but never embraced. That was the way things had been for centuries, until the day a human arrived. Arrival of the human captain, Elias Corrin, stepped off his ship with a smile, carrying a simple pack slung over his shoulder. He was not the tallest human nor the strongest, but there was something steady about him. His dark eyes scanned the station with curiosity, and his easy grin stayed in place even as other species looked him over with suspicion. Humans were still newcomers to the wider galaxy. Many races admired their adaptability, but others feared their unpredictability. Elias didn't mind. He had learned long ago that humans could not control what others thought. What mattered was how he acted. He had come to Orion Prime to find supplies and perhaps some trade contracts for his ship. But more than that, he had come for adventure. The Hall of Cultures amazed him. He walked past stands where feathered merchants sold glowing stones, past stalls where insect-like traders offered tools that hummed with hidden energy. Strange smells filled the air, sweet, bitter, metallic, and spicy. Every moment was new, and Elias enjoyed every step. Then he noticed her. The lone Veyari stood near the edge of the hall, arranging delicate containers of crystal liquid. Her hair shimmered faintly, catching the lights like strands of silver fire. She moved with careful grace, but her eyes told another story. They were not filled with pride or arrogance. They were filled with loneliness. Elias watched for a moment. Around her there was a wide, empty space, as if an invisible wall kept everyone away. Aliens passed by quickly, some sneaking glances, some whispering, but none stopping. The woman reached for a large container, but it slipped from her hands. With a soft cry, she tried to catch it, but it was too heavy. Without thinking, Elias stepped forward. "Whoa, I've got it," he said, grabbing the container before it could fall. For a heartbeat, silence fell around them. Dozens of eyes turned. A human had touched a Veyari woman. The woman froze, staring at him in shock. Her name was Serenia, though Elias did not yet know it. She expected him to fall, to shake, to scream like all the others, but Elias simply held the container and smiled. "You should be careful with heavy stuff," he said gently. "Mind if I set this down for you?" Serenia's lips parted, but no words came. Finally she whispered, "You are not afraid?" Elias raised an eyebrow. "Afraid of helping someone?" "Not really." He set the container back in place and wiped his hands. There, safe and sound. The hall buzzed with murmurs. Aliens pointed, whispered, and gasped. A human had touched a Veyari. He was still standing, still calm. Serenia's heart raced, but not with fear, with something new. Hope. Whispers of the Hallby. The end of the day, the story had spread. Everywhere on Orion Prime, beings whispered of the human who could stand near a Veyari without collapsing. Some thought it was a trick. Others thought it was a miracle. A group of merchants muttered, "Impossible." No one survives their aura, a scientist hissed. Perhaps humans lack the instinct. Perhaps they are broken. A soldier growled, or perhaps they are dangerous. If they can do what others cannot, what else can they do? But while others debated, Elias simply continued his stroll, humming a tune from Earth. He didn't notice that his every move was being watched. As for Serenia, she stood quietly at her stand, still in shock. The human's touch still lingered in her memory. For the first time in her life, someone had reached out, not with fear, but with kindness. A chance meeting later, Elias returned to check on her. He didn't understand the strange way others looked at him, or why Serenia seemed so nervous. "You all right?" he asked, standing before her stall. Serenia hesitated, glancing at the aliens staring from afar. She lowered her voice. Why are you not afraid of me?" Elias shrugged. "I don't know. Should I be?" Her eyes widened. "Everyone fears. Everyone runs. Since I was a child, no one has ever come close. And yet you—" She shook her head. "You walk as if nothing surrounds me." Elias tilted his head. "Maybe it's a human thing. We're used to danger. Back on Earth, our ancestors lived with predators all around. Beasts with teeth, claws, and poison. If we panicked every time we felt fear, we would have never survived. We learned to face it, to push forward." Serenia studied him with wonder. For the first time, she felt something she had only read about in stories. Connection. The first step. That night, Elias sat in a small station cafe, sipping a bitter drink. He thought about the Veyari woman. Something about her eyes had stayed with him. They were strong, but sad, like someone trapped behind invisible glass. Across the cafe, other aliens whispered about him. Some admired him. Some feared him. But Elias barely noticed. Meanwhile, Serenia sat alone in her quarters, her hands trembling. She had always believed no one could ever touch her. No one could ever stand near her. But the human had proved it wrong. For the first time, she dared to imagine a different future. A future where she was not untouchable. Closing of Part 1 thus began the story that would shake the galaxy. A single human unafraid had stepped closer to a Veyari female than anyone else in history. And though he did not yet know it, this simple act would change not only their lives but the destiny of two species. For the first time in centuries, the barrier of fear had cracked. And all it took was one human daring to get close. The story of the human and the Veyari spread like fire through dry grass. On Orion Prime, nothing moved faster than a rumor. By the next morning, every corridor, every cafe, and every marketplace carried the same whisper. The human touched her. He was not afraid. He stood close to a Veyari female and lived. For many, it was nothing short of impossible. For others, it was terrifying. But for Serenia, the Veyari woman herself, it was something different. It was Hope Cernea's restless night. Serenia barely slept. All night she replayed the scene in her mind. The human catching her cargo, speaking casually, smiling without fear. His hand had brushed against hers, and for the first time in her life someone had not recoiled. For Veyari women, touch was like a dream spoken of, but never lived. They grew up seeing how people pulled back, how friends became strangers, how admirers collapsed in terror if they stepped too close. To live as a Veyari woman meant living behind an invisible wall. But Elias Karan, the human, had stepped right through. Serenia sat on the edge of her bed, her heart restless. "Why him?" she whispered to herself. "Why are humans different?" She wanted to know. She needed to know. Elias and his curiosity. Elias, meanwhile, woke up late, stretched, and wandered toward the marketplace. He had no idea how much attention was now on him. To him, yesterday was just a simple act, helping someone in need. That was how he was raised. When he walked through the Hall of Cultures, he noticed eyes following him. Some aliens whispered behind their hands. Others frowned openly. Elias raised an eyebrow. "What's got everyone so tense today?" he muttered. He finally spotted Serenia again. She was arranging her goods with careful motions, but she looked up the moment he approached. Their eyes met, and she froze for just a second before giving him the smallest nod. "Morning," Elias said easily. "Need more help with the heavy lifting?" Serenia blinked, then allowed a soft laugh to escape, something rare for her kind. Perhaps I do." The watching crowd as Elias stepped behind the stall to help move the containers. A crowd gathered at a distance. No one came too close, but everyone watched. Whispers floated through the air. He really does not feel it. Look at him. He stands right beside her. This is unnatural, dangerous. But Elias ignored the crowd. He placed a container gently on the shelf and grinned at Serenia. There, easy. She looked at him with wonder. You truly do not feel anything? No pressure, no panic? Elias shook his head. Nope, should I? Her voice softened. Yes, you should. For the first time, Elias realized just how heavy the burden of her life must have been. Every word she spoke carried years of loneliness. He felt a spark of determination. He wanted to understand her world better. A walk together. When her work slowed, Serenia gathered her courage. Will you walk with me? The question was simple, but for her it was enormous. No one had ever walked close beside her before. Elias smiled. Of course. The crowd gasped as the human and the Veyari left the stall side by side. For Serenia, every step felt unreal. Usually people kept 5 or 10 paces away from her, even in crowded places. But Elias walked close as if nothing was strange. She glanced at him. You are not like the others. Elias shrugged. Humans rarely are. The scientist's curiosity. In another corner of the station, Dr. Zelrin, a tall insectoid scientist, observed them through a hollow screen. His antennae twitched with excitement. Fascinating, he buzzed to himself. Every species reacts to the Veyari aura. But humans resist. Why? He began to take notes. If he could discover the reason, he might unlock secrets of biology that had remained hidden for centuries. But not all who watched shared his curiosity. Some felt fear, some felt envy, and some began to plan. Conversations of the heart. As Elias and Serenia walked, she began to open up. Her voice was quiet, almost shy, but her words carried weight. When I was a child, she said, I did not understand why others would not come near me. I thought I had done something wrong. My mother told me it was our nature, that we carry an aura that awakens fear in other minds. As I grew older, I stopped trying to reach out. It hurt too much to see them run. Elias listened carefully. That sounds lonely. It is, Serenia admitted. We live among others but apart. We trade, we speak, but we never touch, never connect. We are admired from afar, yet always alone. Elias frowned. That doesn't seem fair. She looked at him with a strange smile. The universe is rarely fair. But now you come a human and you stand close as if nothing is wrong. Do you know what that means to me? Elias hesitated, then gave her a warm smile. It means maybe things don't have to stay the same. Rising tension, but not everyone welcomed this new bond. That evening, as Elias left the marketplace, 3 alien merchants blocked his path. Their scales gleamed under the neon lights and their eyes burned with suspicion. You should stay away from the Veyari, one hissed. You do not understand the danger, said another. Your kind should not interfere, growled the third. Elias folded his arms. Funny. She didn't seem dangerous to me. Their expressions darkened. You will bring trouble to us all. Leave her be, human. Elias didn't back down. Sorry, but I don't scare easy. The merchants exchanged glances but finally stepped aside, muttering curses. Elias walked on, his jaw tight. For the first time, he realized this was bigger than he thought. Serenia's realization later. Serenia sat in her quarters, thinking about Elias. She remembered the way he defended her with simple words. The way he walked beside her without hesitation. Her people had lived centuries in quiet isolation. But this one man had begun to break that silence. She whispered to herself, perhaps the humans are the key. Perhaps they can walk where others cannot. It was a dangerous thought, but also a hopeful one. The station watches over the next days. Elias and Serenia met often. Sometimes they talked about Earth, and Elias told her of oceans, forests, and skies filled with birds. Sometimes Serenia spoke of her homeworld, with its glowing rivers and crystal mountains. Every meeting was watched. Some eyes carried curiosity. Others carried fear. A few carried hatred. The galaxy had never seen such a thing before. A human daring to step close to a Veyari female. And though neither Elias nor Serenia fully understood it yet, their simple friendship was the first step toward a storm that would shake the stars. Closing of Part 2 for Serenia, it was the beginning of hope. For Elias, it was the beginning of responsibility. And for the galaxy, it was the beginning of change, because one human dared to do what no other ever had. He walked beside the untouchable, and the universe would never be the same. The news spread far beyond Orion Prime. Ships carried the story to distant stations, and data networks repeated the whispers. A human stood close to a Veyari female. A human touched her hand and lived. The untouchable may no longer be untouchable. For centuries, the Veyari females had been admired from afar, but never approached. Now one man had changed everything with a single act of kindness. Cernea's awakening, Serenia felt the change inside herself. For the first time in her life, she woke each day with excitement rather than dread. She looked forward to walking through the Hall of Cultures because she knew Elias would be there. He did not treat her like a mystery or a danger. He treated her like a person. When he spoke, he looked her in the eye. When he laughed, it was without hesitation. When he walked beside her, he never faltered. Every conversation with him chipped away at the wall that had surrounded her heart for years. One afternoon, as they sat in a quiet corner of the station gardens, Serenia whispered, "Do you know you are the first person who has ever sat so close to me?" Elias smiled softly. "Well, then I'm glad to be the first. But honestly, Serenia, I don't see why others are so afraid. You're just you." Her eyes grew wet, but she blinked back the tears. "For you, it is simple. For me, it is a miracle." A human explanation. Elias was not a scientist, but he tried to explain. Back on Earth, fear was part of life. We lived with predators bigger and stronger than us. We couldn't run from everything. So we learned to control fear, to act even when our hearts raced. Maybe that's why I don't collapse around you. Maybe my people just see fear differently. Serenia tilted her head, thinking. So you believe it is not that I am less dangerous, but that you are more resistant? Something like that, Elias admitted. Humans have a saying. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. Serenia repeated the words slowly as if tasting them. Acting despite it. She smiled faintly. Perhaps that is what makes you different. The station divided, but while Serenia and Elias grew closer, the rest of Orion Prime grew restless. In the marketplaces, some aliens whispered with excitement, "If humans can resist the aura, maybe the Veyari can finally join us fully. This could change everything. Trade, friendship, even families." But others spoke with anger or fear. It is unnatural. Humans should not meddle where others cannot go. They will break the balance of our worlds. Soon the station leadership could not ignore the growing debate. Quiet meetings were held. Some demanded Elias be removed from Orion Prime. Others argued he was not breaking any law. The galaxy had always lived with the untouchable rule. Now it was being challenged, and not everyone was ready. Dr. Zelran's interest in his lab. Dr. Zelran, the insectoid scientist, studied reports of Elias and Serenia. He replayed footage of the human standing beside her without trembling. His antennae twitched with excitement. This is evolution at work, he buzzed. The human brain resists what others cannot. If we can understand why, perhaps we can help others resist too. He decided to approach Elias directly. The scientist and the human doctor. Zelran found Elias in the cafe, drinking a strong alien brew. Serenia was with him, watching the crowd with calm patience. "Captain Corin," Zelran said, bowing slightly. "I am Dr. Zelran. May I speak with you?" Elias raised an eyebrow but nodded. "Sure, Doc. What's on your mind?" Zelran's mandibles clicked. "You are unique. Your kind resists what terrifies all others. I wish to study this. Not to harm, only to learn. If we know why, perhaps the Veyari will no longer be trapped in loneliness." Elias glanced at Serenia. She looked uncertain but also hopeful. "If it could help her people," Elias said, "then maybe it's worth it." Serenia placed a hand gently on the table. "Elias, are you sure?" He smiled at her. "If it means you don't have to live behind that wall anymore, then yes. I'm sure." Growing closeness days passed. Elias spent time in Zelran's lab answering questions, allowing tests of his heart rate, brain activity, and reflexes. Through it all, Serenia often stayed nearby, quietly observing. And with each passing day, the bond between her and Elias deepened. One evening, as they walked through the glowing gardens of the station, Serenia asked softly, "Do humans often risk themselves for others?" Elias chuckled. "Not always. Some of us are selfish, just like any species, but we also have a strong instinct to protect those we care about." He paused, then added more gently, "And I care about you, Serenia." Her breath caught. No one had ever spoken such words to her. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. The first touch without fear in that quiet garden. Serenia hesitated, then slowly reached out her hand. Her people had never known the comfort of touch not without causing terror. "May I?" she whispered. Elias didn't hesitate. He took her hand in his. Warm, firm, steady. Serenia's heart pounded, not from fear but from wonder. "It feels different than I imagined," she whispered. "Real, gentle." Elias smiled. "It feels right." For Serenia, it was the first touch of her life that was not followed by screams or panic. For Elias, it was simply natural. But together, it was history. Opposition rises, not everyone was pleased. A group of alien leaders met in secret chambers. "This human must be controlled," one said. "He threatens the balance," another growled. If humans can bond with the Veyari, what power might they gain? They feared not just for their traditions, but for their influence. For centuries, the Veyari had been admired but kept distant. If humans broke that wall, the galaxy itself might shift, and so plans were made. Elias would be warned more directly. If he ignored it, stronger actions would follow. A warning in the shadows late one night as Elias returned to his quarters. A shadowy figure stepped from the corridor. It was one of the merchants who had warned him before. "Human," the alien hissed. "You are making a mistake. Stay away from her. Stay away from all of them." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Or what? Or you will regret it." The galaxy does not want this change. But Elias stood firm. "I'm not here to please the galaxy. I'm here because I care about a friend, and I won't walk away just because you're scared of something new." The alien snarled but retreated. Elias knew this was only the beginning of trouble. Serenia's strength. When Elias told Serenia about the warning, she looked down sadly. "I feared this. For so long my people have been seen as dangerous, even cursed. Those who benefit from our isolation will not allow it to end easily." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll face it together. You don't have to be alone anymore." Serenia looked into his eyes, and for the first time she believed him. Truly believed. Closing of Part 3, their bond was no longer a curiosity. It was becoming a symbol. To some, it was a sign of hope, proof that barriers could be broken. To others, it was a threat, a danger to the order of the galaxy. But for Serenia, it was simple. For the first time in her life, she had found a friend, an ally, someone who dared to stand close when no one else ever had. And for Elias, it was more than friendship. It was the beginning of something greater, a connection that would test not only his courage but the courage of all humanity. The galaxy was watching. The future was shifting, and all because one human dared to hold the hand of the untouchable. The bond between Elias and Serenia grew stronger with every passing day. For them, it was simple. They enjoyed each other's company. They trusted one another, and they found comfort in the friendship no one else believed possible. But for the rest of the galaxy, their closeness was anything but simple. Growing fear across the station on Orion Prime, whispers became arguments, and arguments became open debates. In the cafes, markets, and corridors, aliens spoke loudly of what the human had done. Unnatural, some said. Hopeful, others replied. Dangerous, many warned. The leaders of trade guilds worried. If humans could bond with the Veyari, perhaps old agreements would be broken. Religious groups called it a violation of natural law. Scientists argued over whether this was a step forward for evolution. The station had not seen such division in years, and in the middle of it all, Elias and Serenia tried to live their days in peace. Serenia's new confidence. Serenia felt something changing within herself. For the first time, she walked through the station without lowering her eyes, without hiding in the shadows. With Elias beside her, she felt stronger, freer. Once even the smallest crowd would make her nervous. Every stare reminded her of her isolation. But now, though people stared more than ever, she held her head high. "Elias," she whispered one day as they walked the station gardens, "you have given me something I never thought I would feel. Courage." Elias grinned. "Funny, that's exactly what you've given me too." She laughed softly, surprised by his words. "Me? But I have only ever been a burden to others." "Not to me," Elias said firmly. "You've shown me that walls can be broken. You've shown me what strength looks like." For Serenia, those words mattered more than all the treasures of her people. The secret council. While Elias and Serenia grew closer, others grew more determined to stop them. A council of station leaders, merchants, and envoys gathered in a dark chamber. The human is dangerous, one said. He breaks centuries of order, another argued. If the Veyari women ally with humans, our balance will be destroyed. They debated long into the night. Some suggested expelling Elias from the station, others whispered of harsher measures. Finally, they agreed on a plan. First, they would warn him openly. If he refused to step away, then stronger steps would follow. A public warning. The next day, as Elias and Sirenia sat together in the Hall of Cultures, a group of armed guards approached. The crowd fell silent. The captain of the guard spoke loudly. Human Elias Corin, the Council of Orion Prime warns you. End your contact with the Veyari female. Your closeness threatens the peace of this station. Leave her or face consequences. The hall buzzed with voices. Everyone watched, waiting to see how the human would answer. Elias stood slowly, his eyes steady. With respect, Captain, I'm not breaking any law. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just being her friend. If that threatens your peace, maybe your peace is too fragile. Gasps rose from the crowd. Sirenia's eyes widened in fear, but also in pride. The captain scowled. This is your final warning. Elias crossed his arms. Then I'll give you mine. I don't abandon my friends. Not for anyone. The guards hesitated. The council had expected fear, but they had found defiance. At last the captain turned and left, leaving the hall full of whispers. Elias sat back down, trying to look calm. Sirenia's hands trembled. They will not stop, she whispered. Then neither will I, Elias said softly. The scientists break through. Meanwhile, Dr. Zelrin continued his studies. He examined every piece of data from Elias's tests. Heart rate, brain waves, blood chemistry. Finally, he discovered something. The aura of the Veyari, he explained to Sirenia and Elias, is not magic or curse. It is a biological signal, an ancient defense. Your bodies release a wave of energy that triggers fear centers in the brains of other species. To them, you feel like the ultimate predator. It is instinct, not choice. Sirenia's eyes widened. Then it is true. We were never meant to be close to others? Not exactly, Zelrin corrected. It is an old survival trait, perhaps from when your ancestors lived in constant danger. But humans, he turned to Elias, your brains are different. You evolve surrounded by predators too. Your species learn to suppress fear when needed. Where others collapse, you adapt. That is why you can stand beside her. Elias grinned. So basically humans are just stubborn? Zelrin clicked his mandibles in amusement. In simple terms, yes. For Sirenia, the revelation was life-changing. So it is not that I am cursed. It is that others are bound by instinct. And you, Zelrin said gently, have found the one species that instinct cannot control. Trouble in the streets, but even as the truth was revealed, danger grew. One evening, Elias and Sirenia walked through a quiet corridor when a group of hostile aliens blocked their path. You were warned, one snarled. You bring chaos to us all, another growled. They stepped closer, weapons in hand. Sirenia froze, fear rushing through her. For all her beauty and grace, she had never faced direct violence before. Elias stepped forward, placing himself between her and the attackers. If you've got a problem, he said coldly, it's with me. The aliens lunged. Elias moved quickly, fighting not with anger but with precision. He disarmed one, dodged another, and forced the third back with a strong shove. Years of human training and instinct guided his movements. The attackers fell, defeated and gasping. Elias stood tall, breathing hard. Stay away from her. Stay away from us. Sirenia rushed to his side, her eyes wide. Elias, you could have been killed. He smiled faintly. Worth it. Sirenia's strength awakens later. In the quiet of her quarters, Sirenia looked at Elias with determination. All my life I believed I was only a danger to others. But you fight for me. You stand for me. I cannot let you face this alone. Elias looked at her gently. You don't have to fight, Sirenia. You just have to live free. That's enough, but Sirenia shook her head. No, I must be more than a symbol of fear. If humans can stand close to us, then maybe my people can learn to stand close to others too. I will show them we are not curses, we are more. Her voice carried strength Elias had never heard before. He realized then that their bond was no longer just about the two of them. It was about changing the destiny of a people. Closing of Part 4, the Council's threats, the scientist's discovery, the attacks in the shadows, everything pointed to one truth. The galaxy was afraid of change. But change had already begun. For Serenia, it was the beginning of a new identity, not as an untouchable, but as someone who could walk proudly beside a friend. For Elias, it was the beginning of a fight larger than himself, a fight for hope, for connection, for the belief that walls can be broken, and for the galaxy, it was the beginning of a storm, because one human had dared to defy fear itself. The storm had arrived. After the attack in the streets and the Council's warning, tension across Orion Prime reached its highest point. Rumors spread faster than ships across the stars. Some believed the human and the Vayari woman were proof of hope. Others saw them as a dangerous sign that the galaxy's old order was collapsing. Everyone waited for what would happen next. The summons of the Council one morning. As Elias and Serenia walked in the gardens, a messenger drone hovered before them. Its metallic voice spoke clearly. Elias Corrin, Serenia of the Vayari, you are summoned by the High Council of Orion Prime. Your presence is required in the Grand Chamber at dawn tomorrow. The drone flew away, leaving silence behind. Serenia's hands shook slightly. They will try to separate us. I know it. Elias placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Then we'll face them together. The Grand Chamber. The next day, the Grand Chamber was filled. Delegates of dozens of species sat in tall seats, their faces stern, curious, or openly hostile. Merchants, soldiers, priests, and scientists all gathered to witness the decision. At the center stood Elias and Serenia. The council leader, an ancient being with a voice like thunder, spoke first. Human, Vayari, you stand accused of breaking order and peace. Your closeness has spread unrest. Your example has inspired rebellion against nature itself. Speak. Why should this council allow your bond to continue? Whispers filled the hall. All eyes turned to Elias. Elias speaks. Elias stepped forward. His voice was steady, his eyes sharp. You speak of order, he began. But what kind of order is built on fear? What kind of peace is built on walls? You call Serenia dangerous because her people were made to stand apart. But I see no curse. I see no monster. I see someone brave, kind, and full of life. If your order says she must live alone forever, then your order is wrong. If your peace demands her silence, then your peace is a cage. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Elias did not stop. I did not come here to break your laws. I came here to show you the truth, that fear can be faced, that walls can fall, that the impossible can become possible. If one human can stand close to one Vayari, then maybe all of us can learn to stand closer too. Serenia speaks. The council leader turned to Serenia. And you? Do you deny that your presence has brought danger to this station? Serenia's voice trembled at first, but then grew strong. All my life I believed I was a curse, that I was destined to live in shadows, never to feel friendship, never to walk among others without fear. But Elias has shown me I am more. He has shown me that my people can be more. Yes, our aura brings fear, but fear can be understood. Fear can be overcome. If humans can do it, then maybe others can learn too. My people are not curses. We are not enemies. We are simply waiting for someone brave enough to take the first step. Her words echoed across the chamber. Even those who hated her paused to listen. The council divides. The council broke into debate. Some shouted that this was dangerous, that if barriers fell, chaos would spread. Others argued that progress was always born from the breaking of fear. The chamber grew loud, filled with clashing voices. Elias and Serenia stood together in silence, waiting. The attack, but before the council could reach a decision, the chamber doors burst open. Armed rebels stormed inside, aliens who feared change and saw Elias as a threat to everything they knew. For the safety of the galaxy. One shouted, "The human must fall." Chaos broke out. Delegates fled, guards rushed forward, but the rebels pushed through. Their eyes were filled with rage and fear. Elias pulled Serenia behind him, his instincts sharp. "Stay low," he whispered. Blaster fire lit the chamber. Guards fought back, but the rebels were many. One of them raised a weapon at Serenia. Without hesitation, Elias moved, shielding her with his body. The shot fired, but instead of fear, Serenia felt something rise within her. Her aura, usually only a weapon of fear, surged outward in a new way. Not wild, not uncontrolled, focused. The rebels froze mid-step, trembling, their weapons dropping as their instincts screamed at them to flee. The guards seized the chance, capturing the attackers. The chamber fell silent once more. A turning point, everyone stared at Serenia. She stood tall, breathing hard, her eyes glowing faintly with the power of her aura. For the first time in history, a Veyari had used the aura not to drive away friends, but to protect them. The council leader rose slowly. What we have seen today cannot be denied. The human stands unbroken before fear. The Veyari woman has turned fear into strength. Together they are proof that the barriers between us are not eternal. A vote was called. For hours the delegates argued, but the tide had shifted. The attack had shown them the danger of clinging to fear and the hope of moving beyond it. When the vote ended, the council leader spoke. By the decision of this chamber, no law shall stand against the bond of human and Veyari. Let this be known. The first step toward a new age has been taken. The aftermath in the days that followed, the story spread across the stars. Songs were sung, articles written, speeches made. For the first time, the Veyari women walked the station without shame. People still trembled near them, but now they tried to stand longer, to learn, to understand. And always, they looked to Elias and Serenia as proof that it was possible. Elias and Serenia. One evening, Elias and Serenia stood on a balcony watching ships rise into the stars. "You've changed everything," Serenia whispered. Elias shook his head. "We changed everything, together." She smiled softly. "Do you ever regret it? The danger, the fights, the fear?" "Not once," Elias said firmly. "Because I found something worth it all." Serenia's eyes shone with quiet joy. "So did I." They stood in silence side by side, the stars reflecting in their eyes. A new dawn, the galaxy was still far from perfect. Fear did not vanish in a single day. Walls did not fall in a single year. But something had begun. And though Elias was only one human and Serenia only one Veyari, together they had lit a spark that no one could extinguish. For the first time in living memory, hope spread faster than fear. And across the stars, countless voices whispered the same words. If a human can stand close to a Veyari, maybe we all can.